Hello everyone, friends. Today, I'll tell you about a guy who learned to travel back in time. Meet Tim Lake, and this is his sister Kit Kat, who tells him that their father is waiting for him. James reveals to Tim the secret that all the men in their family have the ability to travel back in time, which of course Tim doesn't believe. According to his father, you can return to a time or place where you've been before. To do so, you need to find a dark place, clench your fists, and mentally picture yourself there, and you'll be there. Tim jokingly warns that when he comes down here, after spending enough time in the closet with his fists clenched, his father will regret it. Returning to his room, Tim gets in the closet, closes his eyes, clenches his fists, and travels back a day to yesterday's New Year's party, where he was too shy to kiss a girl but decides to do it this time. Going back to the present day, Tim talks to his father and learns that his dad used this gift to read many books. Tim immediately thinks of money, but his father discourages him, explaining that their grandfather lost all his friends because of money. His father advises Tim to use this gift to shape his life the way he wants. Tim then thinks he might work on improving his love life. This summer, Tim's sister Kit Kat is hosting Charlotte for 2 months. While sunbathing on the lawn, the girl asks Tim to apply sunscreen to her back. Not calculating his strength, Tim accidentally drenches her in sunscreen, after which he runs into the house and locks himself in the closet to fix the mistake. Day by day, the summer passes. Today is Charlotte's last day at Tim's house, so Tim decides to confess that he likes her. Entering her room in the middle of the night, she confesses that it's not the best time. He should have made his move when she first arrived. Now, just before she leaves, it feels a little hurtful to her. Tim locks himself in the closet, travels back, and then goes to Charlotte again, confessing that he's been in love with her for almost a month. Charlotte suggests meeting one last time before she leaves, and she will let him know if she likes him. Realizing he hasn't caught her interest, Tim goes back and watches Charlotte leave in the morning. After she leaves, Tim heads to London to study law and meet a new girl. He stays with Harry, his father's friend. Harry shows Tim his room and asks him not to make too much noise during his business, to which Tim complains that there's no option for that. In the 6 months Tim has lived in London, he hasn't met anyone except his quirky colleague named Rory, with whom he works at a law firm. One night, Tim and his friend Jay head to a restaurant in the dark. They are seated next to 2 girls who they can't see due to the complete darkness. Just as the girls can't see them, they talk and have a good time together. After spending a couple of hours in the restaurant, the guys go outside to wait for the girls. Both are nervous, as they have no idea what their new acquaintances look like. First, Joanna, who was talking to Jay, comes out. When the couple leaves, Mary appears. She is quite attractive, and Tim is not disappointed by the meeting, so he asks for her phone number. After saying goodbye to the girl, Tim returns home to find Harry upset because a play he directed was ruined by an actor who forgot his lines. Wanting to help the man, Tim travels back a few hours. He enters the actor's dressing room, who will forget his lines, and advises him to rehearse the script so he doesn't forget anything. After scolding the actor, Tim helps him repeat his lines. During the play, it turns out Tim went to the wrong actor, so he returns to the past, writes cheat sheets on cards, and shows them to the actor behind the scenes, which helps the play become a hit. After the performance, Tim tries to call Mary, but can't find her number on his phone. He runs to the restaurant where they met the girls, but they can't help him there. He can't travel back in time because it would ruin Harry's play, which coincided with their date with the girls. The next morning, Harry shows Tim a newspaper praising the play. In the column, Tim sees an article and remembers Mary's words about how she loves Kate Moss, so he rushes to the museum. After spending several hours there with his sister Kit Kat, Tim eventually meets Mary. However, she doesn't recognize him because the last time he was at the theater instead of the restaurant. Mary thinks he's strange since he acts like they've known each other for a long time, so she decides to leave quickly. Kit Kat suggests trying again and points out the girl. Tim meets Joanna and Mary, and when Kit Kat has to leave, Tim joins the girls at the exhibition because he's bored by himself. Joanna doesn't mind and thinks Tim has a kind smile. To win Mary's heart, Tim tells her he's Kate Moss's #1 fan among men. Hearing this, Mary lights up. They all go to grab a bite, where Mary's boyfriend Rupi joins them. Tim had no idea who he was, but it turns out they met a week ago at Joanna's party. Tim asks where Joanna lives and what apartment number, explaining he's a visual person and likes to picture things. Joanna tells him the apartment number, and when Rupi arrived, so Tim heads to the bathroom, clenches his fists, and goes back to the past. He visits Joanna's apartment, pretending to be Mary's new friend. Noticing Mary looking bored on the balcony, Tim approaches her, suggesting they grab a bite. Seeing her confusion, Tim says he loves Kate Moss, and repeats the exact words Mary had said to him a few minutes earlier at the exhibition. Mary is stunned and agrees to go with Tim. On their way out, they bump into Rupi.
What a dickhead.
Yeah.
After spending time together, Mary asks Tim to walk her to her car. As they pass the parking lot, Mary admits her car is actually parked at her house, and her friends had driven her to the party. They reach Mary's house, where they kiss. She heads inside to change into a new pajama, telling Tim to come in a minute to take it off her. After a few more intimate moments, Tim travels back 2 minutes to do it again, trying to prove he's a real man. On his third return, Tim is exhausted, but Mary still wants more. From that point, Tim and Mary start dating. Months of happiness follow until Mary's parents come to visit her in London. Using his time travel skills, Tim goes back to impress them during their conversation. One night, Tim lies in bed and suggests they go to the theater the next day, but Mary wants to stay in bed all day. Tim invites Rory along. After the play, Tim spots Charlotte in the theater, and she's happy to see him. After a few awkward moments, Tim decides not to approach Charlotte anymore, and leaves the theater with Rory, although he ends up meeting her on the street. Charlotte, with her friend, is going for dinner and suggests meeting Tim soon. He agrees, and when the girls leave, Rory says she's amazing. Tim and Rory head home, but Charlotte runs up to Tim, telling him that she sent her friend off alone, and now suggests that he go to dinner with her. They have a great time, and Charlotte even says they wasted the summer. If she could go back in time, she would have returned Tim's feelings. After dinner, she asks Tim to walk her home. When they arrive, Charlotte invites him inside, but Tim refuses, realizing he's in love with Mary. Leaving her behind, Tim runs home and proposes to Mary. She says yes, and Tim tells his parents when they visit. The wedding is coming soon, and Mary is pregnant, which is met with great joy by Tim's family. The couple has a daughter, whom they name Posey. On her birthday, Tim's sister Kit Kat gets into an accident after arguing with her boyfriend Jimmy. Tim decides to travel back in time to prevent the accident. Since her boyfriend has a bad influence on her, Tim decides to get rid of Jimmy. Admitting that he travels through time, Tim takes Kit Kat to the closet, asks her to close her eyes and holds her hands. They go back to the day she met Jimmy. Tim hides his sister so that the guy doesn't notice her. As Jimmy walks by, he starts flirting with another girl. Kit Kat approaches him and hits him a few times. Tim and his sister return to the present, and unexpectedly, Kit Kat says that Jay, Tim's friend, is really cool. It turns out they're dating. Back home, Tim finds out that instead of a daughter, he now has a son. He travels back to Posey's birthday and learns from his father that any interference could change the child's birth. So Tim decides not to interfere in his sister's life, which is why she won't break up Jimmy and later gets into an accident. While Kit Kat is in the hospital, Tim and Mary convince her to break up with Jimmy and stop drinking. Sometime later, when Kit Kat is almost recovered, Tim casually mentions that his friend Jay is in love with her, which makes her very happy. A few years later, Tim and Mary learn that James, Tim's father, is dying of cancer. James can't change his illness because it progressed due to smoking, a habit he started before Tim was born. If Tim changes anything, he might never be born. Before he dies, his father gives Tim valuable advice. Living the same day twice is the secret to happiness. But there are days you never want to relive. After the funeral, Tim travels back in time to see his father once more, who knows that Tim has come from a time where he no longer exists. After some time, when Tim and Mary have 2 children, Mary suggests having a third. For Tim, this means he won't be able to go back in time and see his father again, but he agrees. 9 months later, lying with pregnant Mary in bed, Tim decides to visit his father one last time. If Mary gives birth today, he won't see James again. His father's last wish is to go back in time with Tim when he was little and take a walk on the beach together. Tim and Mary have a third child. Tim stops traveling back in time and instead lives each day as though he's returned to it to live it happily. That's the end of the movie. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time right here on the channel.